Building guitars, the final video. I lost the footage of myself staining the guitar body as well as applying the nitrocellulose, but that is simple enough and you should be able to find online resources to help. Once you've applied your clear coat, sand it to at least 2000 grit. I'm just using a piece of wet dry sandpaper to go over the entire body. When you're done, wipe off any excess that's left over and begin to buff the body. Start with the rough compound and work your way up to like an extra fine polishing compound using a foam pad and an orbital sander. Do the same thing using attachments for your drill to help get into the around the horn and the trickier spaces to get to with an orbital sander. When you're done, wipe off all compound between every step. And next we can begin to shield the guitar. I like using copper tape. And you want to cover all inside cavities. When we're done, we'll attach those cavities to ground, and this will prevent any noise that would get picked up in the pickups to get sent to the to ground, basically, so you won't pick up any 60 cycle hum or anything like that. This is especially important if you're using single coil pickups. Just cut out the tape and press it into the cavities. To attach the two pickup cavities electrically, cut a thin, long strip of tape and run it from one through the hole you drilled to the other. This doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to make electrical contact between the two cavities. Then repeat the same process to the control cavity. Cover the entire thing with copper tape. And burnish everything down as you go. Cut another strip and run it into your pickup cavity to ensure that you electrically connect the pickup cavities with the control cavity. When you're done, use an ohm meter to check that you have electrically connected all of your cavities. Do the same thing with the cover for your control cavity. This will help make sure that all your electronics are completely enclosed and protected from any EMI. Next, cut 2 little strips of the copper tape and rough them up with some sandpaper. Cut a small piece of wire. What we're going to do is solder that wire to the piece of tape. Apply some solder to that tape first, to the wire second, and then solder the two together. Pre-tin the other end of the wire. And run the wire through the hole under the bridge into your bridge pickup cavity. Press the tape down and make sure that the solder and the wire sit inside the cavity made when you drilled that hole. This will ensure that our bridge and our strings are also grounded. Whenever working over a finished guitar like this, protect it as much as you can. I'm just using some old t-shirts I had laying around the shop. And now we're going to solder the other end of that wire to the pickup cavity. And as always, double check that everything is connected. Install the bridge. Just screw the screws into the screw holes that you screwed into the body, if that made sense. It may be necessary to remove some of the bridge saddles to have access to those screws. Whenever you remove little pieces like this, make sure that you keep them together so you don't lose them, and you can put them all back in the proper positions. Next, install your pickups. First, install the ring if you're using one. Just set it over the cavity and check the length of the screws and how far they go into the cavity. It'll be necessary to trim some extra length off. The pickup manufacturers like to provide you a little bit more than you will need to make sure that they'll have a one-size-fits-all screw. Cut the screw to length, and when you're done, break the edges to make sure that your threads will enter the pickup easily. The pickups I'm using are a Charlie Christian by Lawler Pickups in the neck, and in the bridge, a Lawler Tron. Thread the screw through the ring, install the spring, and then screw that into the ear of the pickup. Do that for both sides. And then thread the wire into the pickup cavity. Once the pickup's in there, you can screw it directly into the holes you already have in the guitar body. On this guitar, I'm installing a kill switch. So what I'm doing here is I cut a ground wire to length. I left a little extra just in case. And I'm pre-tinning each side of that wire. That's a Tessie kill switch. What we're going to do is solder that ground wire onto the other hole on the switch, which is the case ground. What a kill switch does is when it's pressed, it sends your guitar signal to ground and kills it completely, which you can use to make some cool effects, or to plug and unplug the jack without making any noise. Here I'm tinning a piece of tape and another wire. This is going to be the piece that we run from the control cavity to the ground for everything on this guitar. Here I have my electronics installed. And we're just going to choose an easy open spot somewhere on that cavity to stick our wire down. Here we're soldering the kill switch to the input jack. Red to positive, black to negative. Follow the schematics. Next, install your jack. And then make all your solder connections. I'm not going to go over this in very much detail, but just follow the schematics. Your pickups will probably come with some. Here what we're doing is grounding everything. So on your volume pot, score the back of it, rough it up, sandpaper or an X-Acto knife, make a hatch pattern. That's what I did. And because of how many individual grounds we have on this one, I'm making a stripe of solder across the back of it. Now this is a game of just getting the solder on it, but not cold soldering. You don't want to overheat those components and potentially damage them. Run your ground wire to that solder strip, cut it to length, and then solder it. You want to get it hot enough to properly melt the solder, but not so hot you're going to damage any components. Run all of your grounds to this one point, and that will help you avoid creating ground loops. Again, always protect your guitar with t-shirts and rags as you work like this. And here it is, all bolted together. All you have to do is throw in some strings, do a final setup, and you're good to go.